Hi, I'm Lauren O'Keefe, and I'm the coordinator of strategic initiatives at Carnegie Library of Pittsburgh. In September, we hosted the Children's Literacy Summit, a community event that brought together librarians, educators, caregivers, advocates, and community leaders through the shared belief in the power of reading. At the library, we deeply value our work of fostering literacy, making connections, and encouraging lifelong learning for all. We want to keep the spotlight on literacy and continue our conversations and learning. So, we've been holding virtual panels each month discussing topics tied to children's literacy following the summit. Today's panel, Fantastic Books to Read With and Gift Kids, is the final session of our virtual literacy panel series. Tonight, we'll present fantastic books and fun dialogue, exploring what makes these books fantastic, curated and presented by our very own amazing collections team. And I'm excited to announce that we will be giving away a $50 Visa gift card to a lucky audience member chosen at random so that they can purchase some of the books featured tonight. We will reach out to the winner through email after the program. And now I'd like to introduce our panel moderator and lead, Sarah Beasley, who is our Assistant Director of Collection Services at Carnegie Library of Pittsburgh. Hey, Sarah.
Hi, Lauren. Thanks so much. Hi, everyone. Like Lauren said, my name is Sarah Beasley. I'm the Assistant Director of Collection Services here at CLP. And thank you for joining us for Fantastic Books to Read with and Gift Kids. Tonight, I am joined by two of the Collection Services team members. I'm going to go ahead and start sharing our slide deck, and then I'll tell you a little bit more about them. Okay. And is everybody seeing the slides? Yeah, okay, great. All right. So I am joined by Emma DeLuz Klein and Angela Wiley. And Emma is CLP's Coordinator of Reader Services, providing leadership for all the things we do to support and connect with readers of all ages, including the Pittsburgh Book Fest, book lists, displays, and more. And Angela is our Coordinator of Children's and Teen Collections, selecting books, graphic novels, DVDs, wazoodles, and all kinds of formats for kids and teens throughout CLP locations. And we are so lucky to have the jobs that we do because they are arguably the best jobs in all of librarianship. We get to pick all of the things for CLP library collections, and we get to tell you about them in all kinds of fun, interesting, and creative ways, including panels like these. And tonight we're very excited to share some books that we think that you and the kids in your life will love to read. And we will highlight other CLP options for finding even more fantastic books. And spoiler, at the end, we also get to invite one of our partners to share some other great picks as well. So it's something that we care deeply about because we know that one of the best ways to foster literacy and create readers is to read together. But before we dive into book picks, Emma and Angela, can you talk a little bit about how you picked the books that you're going to share? Talk to us a little bit about what you look for in a book to read with kids, what makes a book fantastic. And Angela, I'll toss it to you first.
Thanks, Sarah. So as a selector, I do pay attention to professional reviews when they're available. I think about and check on circulation data of a backlist of authors that are not debut authors. And I think about my own experiences as a children's and teen librarian, which I did for about 10 years on the public service floor throughout Carnegie Library of Pittsburgh locations and a handful of other public libraries in Allegheny County. I also spend a good chunk of my time at library locations in my current role, working with staff on maintenance and on orienting them to new roles. So I do also pay attention to what I notice when I'm in library locations and doing that maintenance or having other discussions and meetings with staff.
And for me, in addition to my role at CLP, I'm also mom of two kids who are 2 and 4. So most of the books I'm talking about tonight are for those younger kids. The books I come across in my professional life, I get to bring home, and if they're a hit, I read them many, many times. What makes a book fantastic to read with kids? For me, it starts with the flow, a story that feels natural and fun to read aloud. And I'm always looking for books that invite interaction, words and pictures that kids find engaging and get them to really join in on the reading experience. Are they laughing, repeating phrases, acting out scenes, asking questions as we turn the pages? And at home, I know we've found a winner when I finish a book and I immediately hear, again.
Great, thank you so much for that. And so with all of that in mind, let's get to those books. But before we do, just a quick note that you will not see age recommendations on any of the books that we're talking about today, but they are more or less arranged in age order, so youngest to oldest. And we do include the format of each recommendation on the slides. That was an intentional choice on our part because there are many factors that go into what book is right for what child at what point in their life. But in general, the recommendations that we are sharing tonight range from birth to age 8. And now I am going to pass it back to Emma to get started with the first book.
My first pick is the board book, I See You Wonder, which is about a child exploring the world around her. Its playful, rhyming text and question-filled pages naturally spark conversation, making it perfect for those interactive read-alouds. Each page encourages participation, whether answering a question or acting out a fun prompt together. Can you waddle like a goose? Give it a go. At the end, caregivers will find a spread of tips on nurturing a child's curiosity, affirming their questions, and finding fun ways to explore the world together. As the book reminds us, wondering makes life more wonderful. Something that I found interesting was that the author, Deborah Farmer Chris, is an expert advisor on the PBS kids show Carl the Collector, which is about a warm-hearted young raccoon with autism who loves to collect things. And you can watch episodes of this on Hoopla with your library card. And I'm going to turn it over to Angela to tell us a little bit more about Best Books for Babies.
Thanks. So Emma just shared about a fabulous board book. It is technically not a Best Books for Babies yet, because it was published this year. But we wanted to take the chance to promote Best Books for Babies. This is a panel of local librarians and child development experts. They've been meeting since the year 2000, and they select and promote high quality materials for birth to 18 months. And to find more suggestions around board books or books for babies in your life, you can visit www.bestbooksforbabies.org, and you can see all the backlists. So you can comb through them for years and years to find great titles to share with the babies in your life.
My next pick is When I Move. This book is tremendously fun to read aloud. Lines like, when I run, I become the heat. When I dance, I become the beat. Invite rhythm and movement into the reading. Vivid illustrations shift from everyday moments to more stylized, fantastical scenes as it follows a vibrant young girl as she joyfully moves through life. I love seeing this side by side as it really invites imagination into the experience. This book will be published as a board book in March of next year. And our fun fact is that the author, Carol Boston Weatherford, has written more than 80 books that have earned numerous awards, meaning that there are great picks for children of all ages. And she was recently at CLP and PPS talking about her book, How Do You Spell Unfair? You'll be able to see a recording of this visit online, offering further insights into her work. There's information on finding the CLP YouTube channel on this slide and with our resources at the end. Continuing on with the theme of joy, Big Boy Joy is buzzing with energy. This book celebrates one of the best parts of childhood, playtime, the kind where kids run free, make new friends, and explore their imaginations. One of the reasons I love this book is because my kids really loved it. They instantly connected with what they do at the playground, with what they see on the page, aided by these really lively cartoon style illustrations. I love it even more because of the way it explores feelings right alongside all the action. Big energy sometimes leads to big crashes or big disagreements. And the boys in this story show all the feelings you would expect: crying, shouting, frustration, but then they beautifully model apologizing. Oops, I'm sorry. I can help. I can ask nicely. Can I play with you? The boys turn to playing, sharing, fixing, and imagining together, leaving the playground as friends. We were already fans of Jashar Awan and had been reading his book Toad by Toad on repeat. But when I saw there was a new book about a garbage truck, this was it. In our house, when we talk about the days of the week, it goes something like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, garbage day. Every Monday Mabel is a celebration of this joy, and we go along with her as she prepares for the best part of the week. This book brings bold neon colors, playful illustrations, and of course, garbage truck sounds that are just begging to be shouted out loud. I love this book because it captures the interest of truck-loving kids and parents in a beautiful exploration of how we can slow down and find joy and appreciation for an every week visitor and our community helpers. And then linked on this slide, the publisher has some activity sheets that can extend the reading experience. Who knows, you might find yourself cheering for Garbage Day too. Up next, I have Cats in Construction Hats. You might be sensing the truck theme that is hard to get away from, at least for us in our phase right now. But this book follows a crew of brightly colored cats as they build an elaborate cat condo with the help and a little mischief from some rats. This picture book is especially fun to share aloud because of its bouncy rhythm and short call and response style commands. Yellow cat, green hat, dig this, clear that, and big sound effects that again invite kids to chime in with some of their own. It has bright, detailed illustrations full of construction vehicles and hidden rats that keep kids engaged across multiple readings as we follow these furry friends from chaos to cooperation and celebration, naturally supporting discussions about working together. All right, now we have The Story Factory. This is a playful, tall tale about a factory that recycles the same old book ideas over and over. No new stories are ever created. But one day, the machine gets jammed, and as workers explore departments like character, plot, and emotion in an effort to fix the jam, the machine ends up exploding, something that kids always seem to find hilarious. As the ideas are all blown out of the factory, it leads to the creation of fresh, new, imaginative stories. The book has bold, mixed media art and humorous factory details. It's easy to pause, ask questions, and have conversations about how stories are made. And this can lead to a fun activity by encouraging storytelling and book creation by the kids you're reading to. And Little Rebels follows three imaginative children who find each other, play together, and learn that being a rebel means asking big questions and caring fiercely for your world. When their local lagoon dries up and a bird friend is stranded, they call on ancestral wisdom and their own courage to protect what is small and vulnerable, showing that even the youngest among us can spark change. It's an incredible read aloud because the language is lyrical, it's rhythmic, and the idea of little rebels repeats throughout in ways that invite kids to echo phrases and, most importantly, share their own ideas. You can pause as you read to ask questions like, what would you do to help this place? And kids always seem to have something powerful to say. I love this because for caregivers, it opens the door to having kid-centered discussions around activism. It helps children see that their questions, their voices, and even their small actions matter. The book doesn't show what the world is, but invites readers to imagine how they might shape the world around them. All right, now we'll take a quick break from book recommendations to talk about the Library of Things. There are lots of non-traditional items in the catalog and all CLP locations that can connect to reading skill development and engaging activities for individuals, groups, and families. This includes things like board games, outdoor games and activities, and musical instruments. On this slide is a literacy board game, Sight Word SWAT, that is featured. This is one I'm looking forward to checking out in the future, but for now, we are playing games like Duck Duck Dance. This is a really great introductory board game for toddlers because it encourages gross motor skills, turn taking, and language development through simple and silly gameplay. Players roll dice to build a dance with motions like clapping, jumping, and twisting. Each time you build and complete a dance, you turn over a card showing an audience member in the pond. As with many first board games, there are no winners or losers, and you are encouraged to adapt gameplay to meet the needs of your group. You can get creative and make your own modifications. This is a fun game for younger kids, and it is also easy to engage older kids in the gameplay. And if you are looking for the perfect transition from dancing to reading, we invite you to check out the staff pick Books with a Beat. And I'm going to turn it back over to Angela.
Thanks, Emma. Good picks. My first pick and my picks overall are going to bring us into the older age group, but there are still some picture books in here that can scaffold really well. I'll start here with Catnap. Catnap is Words and Pictures by Brandon Lies, Caldecott Honor winner, and delivers a real adventure with a little mouse, which you can see on the cover. And the little mouse jumps into a poster for the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Joyful chaos ensues as the gray kitty, you also see pictured here on the cover, gives chase. But as a spoiler alert, everyone turns out okay. And on the journey, you'll find elements of the Met's collection on display within the scenes, and that can build a kid's background knowledge, whether they learn what the paintings are called or not. And background knowledge is super important when kids are learning to sound out words and read. What's amazing about this book is you can enjoy it as this adventure cat and mouse tale, or you can delve deeper, learn about those art pieces, or you can also turn to the back pages in the book and learn about how Brandon Lies made the art in the book. There's stained glass, there's dental tools that were used to shape sculptures, twine, and more. So you might not have dental tools at your house, but you can read the back matter and then get inspired about what you might use in your house, your classroom, or your library to make creative art with the kids in your life. One thing I always love to recall and promote, which can be done really easily with Catnap, but can also be done really easily with All the Stars in the Sky, is that picture books are literally accessible and transportable art. And this one really embodies that truth. In All the Stars in the Sky, there's intricate beadwork that is arranged around and on top of the watercolor style illustrations. It almost does feel three-dimensional at times, which is super engaging for kids and grown-ups alike. And this one is by Art Colson and Winona Nelson. The narrative element of the book centers on the Cherokee word gadoogie, which has a literal translation of working together. This one is not as goofy as the Cats in Construction hats, though, that Emma shared earlier. The main character is a human and is named Clay. And Clay is selected as Star of the Week at school, which means everything is about Clay, which his grandma does not have a positive reaction to. His grandma responds by talking to Clay about the concept of community connectedness using a starry sky as a metaphor. The lesson that the grandma is telling is conveyed very plainly and lovingly, and it comes full circle when Clay returns to school and shares that his week of opportunity with his classmates. And I'm really looking forward to May 2026 when the illustrator of this title, Winona Nelson, will visit Pittsburgh as part of the PGH Book Fest, Pittsburgh Book Fest. Winona will share about the beadwork in the book and offer a workshop for kids, which will be a really great way for kids to both learn about this art and also feel part of the art. The next title I want to share is a reader, Earl and Worm, The Bad Idea and Other Stories, Words and Pictures by Greg Pizzoli. So if the kids in your life have ever had an enemies to friends experience, or frankly, if you have had one as a grown-up, there is something for you in Earl and Worm. The greatest news to report here at the top is if you end up enjoying this one, there are 2 other volumes available for you. This one is the first, and it chronicles the blossom of friendship between the bird and the worm that you see here. It begins with grumpiness, frustration, because Earl is annoying Worm with literally anything and everything that he does. But melting eventually happens, and the pair eventually warm up to one another. And there are technically 3 stories in this, which helps emergent readers feel kind of like bigger kids reading a chapter book, even though they're still in that reader stage. The illustration style here is really similar to Pizzoli's other work, if you are familiar with them. And it feels kind of, again, like graphic novel, big kid material, but younger kids may be able to read this alongside a grown-up, aloud alone, or revisit on their own if they're emergent readers. And the narrative can also be discussed for nuance around friendship, or it can be read as that silly tale. So it can grow with the kid, in my opinion. I laughed out loud, and you know, just in the way that Earl and Worm melted towards each other, my heart melted a little bit while I read it. All right, my next pick is The Escape Artist, and there are opportunities for chuckles here as well, but also the opportunities for kind of scaffolding, going deeper and expanding what you can see in the book, or just enjoying it the way it is. It's playful, it's eye-opening, and the narrative is built on rhymes, which is so fun. The author is Thor Hansen, illustrations by Galia Bernstein, and it's based on a true story out of an aquarium in New Zealand. Inky, who you can see here on the cover, is an octopus fed up with existing in a tank, despite the many amenities of reliable food and protection from any predators or other hazards. Inky travels 164 feet back to the ocean through a drain pipe, which is kind of disgusting, which means kids may generally enjoy this. Back matter of the book contains additional info about the actual escape, along with basic information about octopi. So if the kid in your life is an expert octopi person, they might need something more. But this is good for either a novice or for that enthusiast who might not know this specific story yet. Sometimes kids like to get very, very knowledgeable about very specific things. So I wanted to include that disclaimer. But it offers an opportunity to discuss, in general, non-human animals as sentient creatures, or to talk about what happens when anybody might want a different path than what they've been offered by their circumstances. So again, there are many, many drain pipes you can go down with The Escape Artist. All right, my next pick is The Curse of the Akoma Stone, which is part of the Kwame's Magic Quest first chapter book series. This one is by Bernard Mensah with art by Natasha Nayo. And I love this series because it does provide much needed authentic racial diversity among what is usually available in early first chapter books. And it takes place in a magical school where Kwame attends as a student. In this particular installment, there's a magic competition, and 2 students are trapped in stone by someone, we don't know who cast a forbidden spell. There is a place called the Cursed Realm, of course, that Kwame has to go to, and there's some detective work involved. At the end of this book, there are some guiding questions that invite both comprehension and interpretation, which is great for readers gaining confidence. And there's illustrations well throughout this book, so good for those readers that are getting kind of confident, but still provides an opportunity to read together. Okay, so this is a book. When I saw this book come across my digital desk, I gasped many times. First, it's about Christiana Figueres. Second, it was written by Cuban American author Margarita Engel, and the illustrator Nazareth Hidalgo Lobo is Costa Rican, as is Figueres. So all of this was very exciting to me. And picture book biographies are generally very exciting to me. Something I find wonderful about them is they highlight contemporary and historical figures that may not be household names, but were or are part of really important parts of the world and history. In this case, we have a contemporary Christiana Figueres. And as a much younger person, I attended the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change several times, and Figueres was the secretariat for the UNFCCC from 2010 to 2016 during most of the times I went to the UN. And this included the Paris climate talks, which most people might remember or were tuned into in 2015. But there were a lot of meetings before that and a lot of meetings after that. And while all figureheads in the UN were frustrating at one point or another to those of us who were youth there, including Figueres, something that rings very true both in the book and in real life as I witnessed her is she is super optimistic and super dedicated to environmental issues because of her love of the rainforest in her home country of Costa Rica. So it's possible that you can feel that I'm very excited about this book because of my excitement about this person and topic. So instead of only suggesting this book, I would encourage you to think of a person who might inspire the kid in your life, or who you might connect, together with, and ask a librarian to help you if there's a biography about that person, if you're not sure if there's one, or take a look yourself. If you choose to share this one with a kid, though, which I, of course, would encourage, one of the best things about it is it shows how a person can build a career and a life path based on something they love. And that is a sentiment I hope is shared with every kid through stories, real or fiction. Okay. Aforementioned sentiments aside, let's be honest. One thing that might be very true about many kids is they enjoy goofy graphic novels. This one has, I think, a fair amount of goof and wide appeal, but it also has a depth to character and plot and promise in a future volume to be released in July 2026, which I'm super excited about. It is important to note this is not a Halloween book. It is a witch character in a witch town where it's witch time all the time. And it centers around a broom riding parade that is scheduled for the night of a supermoon in Jazzy the Witch's witch town. Everyone in that town is enamored with brooms and flying. And Jazzy is really bad at flying brooms. She's also not really interested in flying brooms. She is interested in bicycles, and she hides that truth throughout the story as the parade is coming on and this distress of not knowing how to ride a broom well is sweltering around her. The art is pretty cozy and focused in the color palette you see on the screen in yellows, greens, grays, and purples. But there's also a lot of action to keep attention. And this one it's very earnest and reminds all of us to be true to ourselves and never give up. Okay, all aboard the Space Cat. The Space Cat rules. It has words by Nnedi Okorafor with pictures by Tana Ford. And Okorafor is renowned across age groups, and this graphic novel is simply incredible. It has cats, owls, lizards, spaceships, a temporary move to Nigeria, and more. In some regards, this tale is quite personal because the author herself is a character, and her daughter and a photograph of her cat Periwinkle in the back of the book, and their family tells us that her world inspired the science fiction, and most certainly the cat you see here on the cover. Periwinkle here is the space cat and is working to protect humans at night from mind-controlling aliens. He is also countering prejudice against cats in his temporary new home and has taken a long time to warm up to his human family. The book is boisterous and very odd, and it has spaceship races. It really kind of checks a lot of boxes, and I think most people can have fun in this book. Okay, last but certainly not least, and I did not put this one on the slide as a joke about the word last, but it's called At Last She Stood. This is my last pick, and it is by Erin Entrada Kelly. This is a book that I wanted to read instead of keeping my appointments with people that I love and usually look forward to seeing. You know that kind of book? So Erin Entrada Kelly is a two-time Newbery medalist, National Book Award finalist, whose work has been translated into more than a dozen languages. Before she became an acclaimed children's author, she was a journalist in Louisiana. This book reads like compelling journalism, and part of it ends up taking place in Louisiana. So you can tell that Erin Entrada Kelly is flexing this really important muscle in her creative heart because it is on all of the pages and makes them so compulsively readable. The biography shares the life of Joey Guerrero. Guerrero lived with Hansen's disease in the Philippines and later in the US. She acted as a secret operative in World War II, aiding the US and interests of Allied forces. And you might not think it would be riveting to read about a person carrying a map through a jungle between their clothes, but it was very risky, very crucial, and it is enthralling to read about. World War II nerds, which I am not, and empathetic souls, which I am, can both find treasure in this book, which is very slim, and it's definitely for our older readers. There's a lot of photographs in it and sidebars and pullouts. So it could work for reading together as well, of course. It's slim, but it's very mighty. And it, of course, reminds us that there are quiet heroes that are part of lots of big events that we learn about and know about in the world. This is a book that I frankly wish was longer, and I rarely feel that way about a book. So I do really, really think it's a fantastic one of 2025.
Okay, so that wraps up our book recommendations. Thank you both, Angela and Emma, for these fantastic titles. It makes me so nostalgic for the time when I had smaller, younger people that I got to read side by side with and to, but it's not going to stop me from borrowing and maybe buying all of these books and enjoying them just for myself too. But in addition to the recommendations, we would be remiss not to mention some of the other ways to get great recommendations any time of year. So as you can see on this slide here, staff from across the system regularly share lists of recommended reads, watches, and listens for all kinds of genres and topics. You can filter by age, by format, by genre to narrow down things to just what you're looking for. Oops. That was funny and unexpected. You can also find clever, delightful, and helpful lists posted in the library catalog. This slide shows some of the lists, including one with tonight's recommendations, posted on our Carnegie Library of Pittsburgh Kids account. And if you're not already following us, you can do so by clicking on the follow button that is circled in red at the top when you go to our library catalog. We also have teen and adult CLP catalog accounts with book lists, read-alikes, genre guides, and even a gift guide for those ages as well. And if you still can't find just the right thing, we invite you to try our match service. Linked on this slide and along with all of the other resources, or the next slide, all of the other resources mentioned this evening, you give us a little bit of information about your likes, your dislikes, your mood, and our expert staff will send you a personalized list of recommendations. We also offer a version for educators who are looking for classroom materials. And these are the resources, the list of resources with links to all of the things that we mentioned in tonight's presentation. And we will also share those out via email to anyone who registered for this panel. And that wraps up our recommendations, but we're just one of many organizations in the region dedicated to fostering literacy. As you can see from this list of partner organizations that participated in our Literacy Summit resource fair earlier this year. And we're so fortunate that one of those organizations is Reading is Fundamental, and that we have Elizabeth from that organization here, their Director of Education and a librarian, with us tonight to share some additional fantastic books to share and read with kids. So we'll move on to this slide, and I'll turn it over to Elizabeth to tell us about some of your picks.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sarah. And it's great to be here tonight. Great to talk books with you all. What a fun thing to be doing. Like Sarah said, my name is Elizabeth Pepra, and I'm the Director of Education at Reading is Fundamental Pittsburgh. And our mission with all of our programs is to provide the resources, opportunities, and motivation to develop a lifelong love of reading in the children that we serve. So that's kind of the driving force behind what we do, and how I picked these books that I want to share with you tonight. But like Emma, I'm also a mom of 2 little girls, and they are really the barometer for what makes a good read aloud and a good book. And especially the picture books that I'll share have gotten their stamp of approval. So you know that they're really good. The first book that I want to share with you is, I don't know if you can see with the blurred background, but the cover is on the corner of the slide. They're called Two Worlds, Dos Mundos. And this is a really gorgeous first words picture book. There's a word in Spanish paired with a word in English on the 2-page spread. Very simple, but the illustrations are so beautiful. And it also kind of follows the character throughout his day, going from morning through what he's doing during the day, all the way to nighttime and bedtime. So it also kind of doubles as a nice bedtime book too. The other picture book that I want to share with you is for slightly older kids. You can see it in the top right corner, called Don't Trust Fish. And as adults, a lot of us have probably enjoyed books with unreliable narrators, but now kids can enjoy that too. This book has a very unreliable narrator and kind of a surprise reveal at the end. And the narrator starts off by categorizing different animals, showing us, mammals, reptiles, birds, but then shows us the mischievous fish that we cannot trust. And then I won't spoil the reveal, but it's really fun. This book is great too because it elicits a lot of laughter from the youngest all the way to the oldest. So this is a book that you can also enjoy as you read it to your child. And then I want to just share two more graphic novels. The first one is called Dino Poet. This is by Tom Engelberger of Origami Yoda fame, if you know that series from a couple years ago. And this book is for you if you ever wondered what rhymes with pterodactyl. You'll have to see see what does rhyme with pterodactyl by reading this book. But it's a really fun graphic novel that kind of slides in lessons on poetry through the story of this dinosaur with a rumbling stomach and the journey that he goes on to figure that out and all the lessons that he learns about poetry along the way. And then the last one that I want to share, I actually didn't put this cover on the slide, but it is a graphic novel called Crumble. It's a really beautiful middle grade graphic novel about a girl, Emily, who loses her aunt, who's very dear to her, and how she works through her grief. And it seems like a heavy topic for younger kids, even though we all experience that. But it's made a little bit lighter with the element of magic because this is a magic bakery that they're a part of. And whatever the baker is feeling, whether that's happiness or sadness or anger, that emotion gets baked into whatever they're making and passed on to the person eating it, which is quite surprising. So it is a very fun, enjoyable, quick book, but it does deal with some important topics like grief and dealing with emotions and how to be okay with being imperfect. So hopefully you all will check those out. And there's a couple other ones on this list that I didn't talk about tonight that are wonderful as well. Before I jump off, I want to highlight a couple programs that you might be interested in with RIF. One is called Book Babies, and it's a program for caregivers with kids birth to age 3, promoting early literacy, and it's just a wonderful place where you can come for story times and free books delivered to your home. So if you're interested, go on our website and you can find out more information about that. And then the other program is our Everybody Wins mentoring program. If you're interested in being a reading mentor, we have a lot of opportunities for you to do that, to read with a child 1 hour a week. I have done this for many years, and it is without fail the highlight of the week. Some of the most fun that you can have during the workday. So if you're interested in mentoring, you can also check that out on our website. And thank you so much to CLP for inviting us to participate. We love working with you all and sharing books.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. And thanks again to Emma and Angela. And I believe I am turning it over to Lauren now.
Yeah, I just wanted to extend my thanks to everyone on this panel, Sarah, Angela, Emma, and Elizabeth. I'm very intrigued by Don't Trust Fish, and I think I'm gonna be buying Catnap because I love art. So this has been so fun, and I know everyone in the community will enjoy this too. Thank you.